Hey guys, I just got the battery apron in that I ordered that was down here that I talked about last night. This came in like 2 days. I got it from CJ Pony Parts, so let's make sure it's not damaged. So here's the apron. This is the part we need right here. It's a Dynacorn, so it should have all the same holes. So for example, it starts here, goes around this shock tower, down and around and up, but all we really need is this, because we didn't know where this ridge went, didn't know if it went in like this or straight across. We can tell now it goes around like this, and it's got the 2 drip ledges for water to run down and run off. So what we'll do is cut this out where we want it first. Hate to ruin a whole piece on there, but I really want to save all this original steel that I can, and so I would rather ruin this and keep all of this. So we'll cut this out first and then lay it over that, and then we'll trace it out and cut it out and weld this in just like we did on the frame last night. That is a nice piece. That's heavy. Even got the support under here, which you can see right here, the exact same spot. Also got some the rest of the windshield squirter hose. You can tell, like, all I've got coming out of there is the T. All this stuff is what's, the rest of it to make that work. And I needed this boot that goes on the clutch shaft. Ours is tore right through here, so we'll replace that. Next thing we'll do is start cutting. It looks like the holes are off just a little bit, maybe half a hole down here and just a little bit up on this top one. So when we put the battery box back on, we're going to have to do some adjustment to make these holes down here line up, because there's a bracket that goes on the bottom of the battery box and then the ones that go through these holes. So all that's got to line up. But so let's see how it fits now that I got everything around. I think what I'll do is put some of these little things are used to when you're welding, and this bar right here goes on the bottom side of the panel like that, and then this top side goes on the top, and so your panel goes in between there, and when you tighten this down it holds it in. So let me get these put in and then I'll show you. I got a little bit of a wide gap back up in here. I just have to do the best I can. This right through here is really good. I think I'm going to tack it right in here. Maybe pull this up a little bit, tack it probably right here to start with, because that's perfectly in line. And then I'll probably put one in here, and then maybe pull this up a little bit and put one right in here somewhere, and then get all my clamps and stuff out of the way, and then start welding. So I have to do the spot welds underneath and a bunch of grinding. So I got to grind that weld all down all the way around, and just like on the frame, we got to check for pinholes and then weld those up, grind down again, and then we'll do some cleaning up, and then we'll do some filler on there. I'm sure it'll take just a little bit. Alright, so got it all welded and ground down, and I've got some pinholes like normal, like right in there, up in here. I'll find all those and fill them with some weld and grind it down again. Then I need to get underneath the car, and on this piece down here where it curves up underneath, I've got to weld those 3 spot welds. There's the underside where I welded. So what I'll need to do is go through and grind all those welds down, which shouldn't be as hard as it is up on top. Use the flap disc and get it all smooth all the way around it, and then I'll use some short fiberglass filler on that to go over it, and that just helps strengthen that weld so it doesn't crack. And I still got to weld those 3 spot welds right there, so let's do that now. Alright, spot welds are in. Now I'll start grinding down all these welds. That 1 spot weld on the left, I need to grind it down too. It's pretty ugly. Let's do some more grinding. Alright, now it is ground down and ready for the fiberglass short strand filler. So I'll just clean it up a little bit more, get all the dirt and junk off of there, and then clean it with some lacquer thinner and wax and grease remover, and then we'll put some fiberglass on it. I was getting ready to try to do filler on the seams, and then I saw this. So that is another spot I need to cut out and weld a spot in there. So before I start doing any filler, I want to be able to have all these things ready to use filler on them at once. So I'm going to go ahead and just cut that little thing out and get another piece of metal and put it in there, and then that'll be it. There won't be, there's no other rusted spots on the whole car, so let's get that fixed. Alright, so I think I'm done with all filling of rusted out spots. Next thing to do is go down like below, see where the grind marks are, where I've ground off that weld. I needed to go underneath there and get the paint off of it down an inch or 2 below that, so I can put filler on there and it go directly to the metal. And then there's that spot there where I filled in where that hole was, so that'll need a little bit of filler. And then we got the spot over on the frame we filled in the other day. That'll need a slight little coat. So that's done, and that was a nightmare. You just can't hardly reach in there and get where you need to get. It took forever to sand it by hand. But that's done, so that's ready for the undercoating. And I'll spray on there and try to get that same texture it's on the rest of it. And so the next thing we'll do is move on to put the filler up here, 3 places. And then I think what I'll do is remove the top of these shock towers, these brackets that hold the shocks in, and get this one off and the other side off, and then probably this brace here, and actually get those in the sandblaster so I can get those blasted and clean good so they'll paint. They're way up high, so when you open the engine bay, you see those really well, so I'd like to have them really smooth and clean stuff so they get a really good paint job on them. looks like about it for tonight. I got that area filled and sanded down there on the frame. Got all the hardware stuff off the shock towers and the brace. The hood hinges are all off. Here they all are. So that's the pile of stuff I've got to sandblast. I'm not sure if that big brace will fit in the blasting cabinet, but I'll try. If not, then I'll have to do it by hand. I thought I was done sandblasting this car and I forgot about that stuff. So, and check out these shock towers. You know, that's usually the worst place for rust, and those are pretty doggone good. Good and solid. There's no, I don't see any rust through, just a little surface. I think that's just dirt. So that's pretty cool. The underside of it was just rust, so the sandblaster blasts that off easy. But this top has got some kind of a rubberized, I don't know if it's rubberized or it's something, but that the sand will not even touch it. So I'm gonna have to try to get that off there with a wire brush or something, get it broke loose enough to where the sandblaster will actually get down to bare metal. So these small cabinet blasters, even at 100 and something pounds in there, there's some stuff that, I guess, especially if it's rubber or anything like that, it just bounces off. It won't get down to the metal. So see what I can do with a wire brush. Wire brushing that helped a lot. And got most of it off, but there's still some areas like way down in here around the edges. I mean, and I sandblasted it again after I wire brushed it. And I mean, these things will just not come off. These, whatever this kind of paint is. I don't know if it was like 415 or whatever it is, it will not come off. So I'm gonna have to get a Dremel and get down in there with something, and then at least get the paint, top layer of the paint off, so the sandblaster can get the rest off. Then I gotta do the same thing with the other one, and then I just hope that the hinges don't have that same kind of paint on it, because if they do, that will be a nightmare. Okay, so the little Dremel tool did the trick. Went through there and got into the hard spots, like up in these areas and around, and went back into the sandblaster and shot it again, and everything came off. So now I'll go to the next one and get that one done, and then to the dreaded hinges. Alright, so there's those finally finished. So now we'll head to the hood hinges. So as you probably guessed, the hinges were painted in the same ridiculously hard paint as the tops of the shock towers. So the springs came off really easy. So when I finish sandblasting that, that'll be nice and even and ready for the clear coat. But this is going to take a while. Hopefully not much longer and we'll have this one finished. So let's put her in the blaster. Well, that one is complete. That took a long time, probably, I guess, 2 hours total from start to finish on one hinge of constant sanding and scraping. So, okay, so in working on these two little areas where that Monte Carlo bar was attached, when I first looked at it, I thought, well, I'll just weld in these holes, but it's not that easy. This is what those little grooves are supposed to look like. A nice sharp edge on the top with a little gutter right there for water to come down. And so when they put that Monte Carlo bar on there, they had a washer up underneath it, and when they tightened it up, it pushed that gutter back out. So what I've got to do is beat that thing back down into submission, make that little groove back in where it's triangular shape, kind of like that one, and then weld it back. So I started working on this one over here. I've about got it. Might be hard to tell on the camera, but I got the ridges back in. Had to get back underneath the chisel and some stuff and beat it back up. But I've got it beat up through the center of that hole. So now I'll go back in and weld that hole shut and then grind it back down again. It should be, once I put a little filler on it, it should not be able to be seen, I hope. Okay, so that side's done. I don't know how well you can see it on this camera, but you won't be able to see once I put a little skim coat of filler on there. I've got the angle right, I think, and the hole's filled in, so should be great. So I don't want to bore you guys. I'll do the other side off camera, and I'll do most of the cleaning of that hinge over there off camera, since that's boring. And then hopefully when we start next week's video, we'll have that done and the other piece of this, and we'll start on some new stuff. And hopefully I'll have my sandblasting cabinet stuff in by then. Well, that's all the time we've got for today, guys. I do really appreciate you sticking out with me through this whole process. It's a long, tedious job doing a restoration versus a rebuild project. You've got to fix everything as you go and, you know, rebuild it from rust and problems like that. But I promise you we will finally eventually get done with that part of it and get to the painting and reinstalling the engine. And I look forward to that as much as you do, believe me. So if you enjoyed the program, give us a thumbs up down below, and please make some comments. We enjoy that, and we'll see you next week.
Do you have any questions about this week's video? Leave a comment down below. And always remember, don't retire it if you can rebuild it. Thanks so much, guys, for tuning in and watching this week's episode of Rebuild It. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any awesome content. Have a good one.